We spent an awful lot of time looking at the priority roll, so what we wanted to do was introduce even more reasons, even more choice around, do you take the double turn, do you give it away? If you do take that double turn, it's such a big impact, you need to make sure that you do it at just the right time.
I really liked what was done to balance the double turn. Now there's a bit of a restriction.
The impact of the change being reduced in the amount of points you can score if you do take it. There's a real punishment if you do.
The reality is, I'll take the double turn every time. Almost every time. Because, like, if I go bottom of 1 and I'm able to double turn them into 2, yeah.
I don't think Games Workshop knows how to handle the double turn in AOS. So let's talk about it.
Shurfrousky's Cult of Nine.
So, welcome my little blue horrors and brimstones and pink horrors, whatever you are. Welcome to Shurfrousky's Cult of Nine. If you guys think this topic's pretty interesting and you want to help spread the message, please consider liking and leave a comment too if you got any opinions on this. I'd love to read it and talk to you guys about it. And of course, if you enjoy the type of content I make, then consider leaving doing a subscription. I'd appreciate it. Anyways, let's get to this topic. So, yeah, today we're going to be talking about the double turn in Age of Sigmar and basically how it's just so strong that I don't think GW is ever going to be able to fix it. It's just too strong of a mechanic. They're going to have to do a lot of debuffing or ways to not make you want to take it. Yeah, even though, so I'll probably came out of the gate with this video maybe sounding like I hate the double turn, but I don't. I think it's an okay mechanic. It's an interesting mechanic. I think it's, nice to have something different compared to other games. Other games don't really seem to have this kind of rule. So I'm not gonna act like or say that a double turn mechanic is like complete trash or it's bad or anything. It can have its place, it can have its merit. It seems like in 4th edition, they're trying to create a better balance with it, because I think they know that from previous editions it was really strong, but it doesn't seem like they're really figuring it out, and it just kind of shows that the mechanics are too strong. Anyways, let's kind of break things down a bit. Yeah, just in case anybody's new to AOS or doesn't fully understand what double turn is, I'll kind of explain it. It's technically it's called the priority roll, which is in the core rules. I think it's in if you go to the advanced section 2.0, should be in that section. It's where, like, after round 1, basically, when you go to round 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, you roll to see who gets to go first. And so that means the player who went second in that round, or bottom of the round, whatever terminology you want to use, they basically get to play again, right? And that's what the community means by saying double turn. Before 4th edition, it was a lot simpler. I didn't play AOS like before 3rd edition, so I don't know how 1st edition or 2nd edition's double turn acted or was. I think as far as I heard, it basically was the same as it was in 3rd edition. It's just you just roll off and see who gets to go next. That's really it. There's no buffs or debuffs or anything else to it with that. But now with 4th edition, it's a bigger change. So there's a couple different ways that there's some new rules now for 4th edition with double turning. So the main way is like a normal match or competitive type play, like with the General's Handbook, is, at least when the edition came out, because now it's different with the FAQ, the original version was, if you double turn someone, you can't use a battle tactic. That's their way to like debuff it, to try to maybe discourage people from doing it so much. Probably maybe mattered more if you had a game where the points are close to each other, right? And then also the Spearhead has a mechanic too for double turn. You can double turn in that game mode as well. And in Spearhead, it's they call it seizing the initiative. So same thing, after the player who wins second wins the priority roll and they choose to go first, they don't draw a battle tactic card, because in Spearhead it's battle tactic cards, not just a battle tactic like list that you can pull from. But it means you can't do any of your battle tactic cards that you draw or that you drew for that round. But the extra caveat to it that's different from the main competitive play is that unless you're an underdog with 5 points, with a difference of 5 points or more, then you can use the battle tactic card. So it's a little bit different, and I think that's a little bit of a better way compared to the main game. But now with the recent FAQ that happened in December 2024, they changed it. So they have it where now it's the player who went second in the previous battle round wins the priority roll and chooses to go first. Their opponent is the underdog until their opponent does the same. So now if you double turn someone, you're making your opponent, you're forcing them to be underdog, regardless of points. They just get to have that underdog like buff, basically. Unless they end up double turning you later on in the match. And then if a player is behind 6 or more victory points, now this is where they're kind of taken from the spearhead section, they do not suffer any penalty from taking 2 turns in a row. Their opponent is not underdog, and for the rest of the battle, and they can use a tactical gambit ability, which means picking a battle tactic. So basically, they literally just copied the spearhead version. The only difference here is that like the opponent gets to be forced to be underdog for, the rest of the game. But yeah, now if you're behind so far behind in points, those like double turning debuffs won't happen to you. Yeah, I find it kind of funny. Your opponent gets to be forced to be underdog, which still really isn't that big of a deal. And we'll go into more why, but I want to break it down a little more. So let's look at pros and cons of the double turn. At least in my opinion. So some of the pros with double turns can be, it can be interesting gameplay. If you're tired of just going always back and forth, or like you're playing 40k and it's just constant I go, you go, the rounds are set. Then yeah, this is a little bit different, right? It's kind of randomized, or it throws in some randomization, which can make it more interesting. And even knowing this type of mechanic, it can make the game a little bit more tactically deft. I think in AOS, people usually, especially more probably competitive players, it depends on the army too, of course, but they would probably prefer to go second in the first battle round just so they can control the double turn, because getting double turn can be so strong. So maybe if you're an army where, if you get double turn and that can really destroy you, maybe you want to go second just to prevent the other player from getting a double turn, and then you just never take it so they can't ever have a chance to get it. Or vice versa. Maybe your army or your list is really good at double turning people, like you got a really strong list, and maybe you want to have double turn, so it's the same thing. You try to go second on round 1 and maintain that position, that way you can pop that double turn whenever you can get it. So it adds a tactical depth to that with those kind of situations. Now, some of the cons I would say is, if you're a new player, it could probably be a little confusing. The concept isn't like too confusing, but maybe now with 4th edition it can be a little confusing. It's just an extra rule you got to remember, because you're gonna have to remember like, oh, we're done with the round, now let's roll off to see who gets to go and blah 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 blah. And again, the cons, I guess maybe you can consider it a pro too, I guess it depends on your point of view, but I would say the con of it is that it is just way too strong of a mechanic. It just kind of like ruins the game, because it's like, instead of having like a good back and forth for 5 rounds, it's like round 2 or 3 you get double turn, the game's over. That's it. And then of course if you're on the receiving end, it doesn't feel good. You don't want to just watch, get crushed when you're playing the game, and all you did was just watch somebody play twice against you and you just played 1 round. Which also leads into another con of it being like, it's like more of like a feel bad mechanic. And what I mean by that is, like I said, you can get crushed very easily with a double turn. You don't just want to be pulling all your models off the board. Also, when it comes to like casual or competitive, as far as it being like a feel bad mechanic, just imagine the situation, right? Maybe you're playing like a casual game with a buddy at your local gaming store. You just watch them spend like 30-40 minutes doing his turn. Now he wins priority roll, he gets to double turn, and now you just get to watch him play the game again for another 40 minutes. Like, that isn't the best experience. Now you're just sitting there doing nothing, watching him play for like an hour. Like that's not the most engaging game. And of course, I know they got more engaging stuff now in the off turns when you're an active player, and it depends on kind of like your I guess opinion of this and what you like in the game, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But in general, I think for most players, they're not going to enjoy just watching somebody play for an hour straight and you barely do anything. Which also leads into my next point for it being a con is that I don't think it's that good of an option for like an I go you go system, because the I go you go system is, they do everything on their return and then you do everything on your turn, unlike probably more like skirmish games or alternating activating gameplay systems like the skirmish games, where you activate a unit or model, then they activate a unit or model, and you just go back and forth. And then the double turn could come in. I think Kill Team already does it, where at the start of the new round you can roll to see who goes first, and then that can kind of like be like the double turn a little bit. Or maybe if there is a double turn mechanic in that type of game, it's like, I activated this guy, and maybe there's a special ability where the guy next to him gets to activate. Like, those could be things, but that's not going to be super strong. I mean, it can be strong in this little small niche scenario, but it's not going to be as strong as in like an I go you go system where where everything gets to attack and move and fight and shoot at twice in a row, basically. So those are my opinions on the pros and the cons of the double turn mechanic. And so now I want to kind of show you guys some similar opinions and thought process with the community too. I remember watching a Warhammer Weekly show, Vince Ventrilo's Warhammer Weekly show, like around the time when AOS 4th edition launched. And I heard his opinion about double turn, and it really resonated. It sounded very similar to my viewpoint. So I want to play a clip of that real quick just to show you guys other people's opinions on it in the community too, and what they think. Now, keep in mind, this was when 4th edition launched, so as of this recording, that's like 6 months ago or 4 months ago. So maybe his opinion has changed with the new FAQ. He hasn't expressed anything publicly yet about it, but anyways, take a look.
And one of the things that you can build a list for is that, well, if you're like Slaves to Darkness players who are going one drop, for example, are trying to hedge giving away top of one 98% of the time,
Sure,
and then being in a position where worst case scenario, my opponent goes after me at the top of turn 2, and I'm not in a bad position because I will get all of my command points back, and I'm going to have access to those command points to cast a spell and countercharge. And if you are if in like a regular, like whatever, if you have outdropped your opponent, you've given them top of one, you can score in a way where it's like, all I have to do is not score 10 points. I can collect the underdog bonus, and then if I win priority, I'm going to take it. I'm going to use the underdog bonus and the double turn against them to try and
your back. Just especially with like a massive Varangard. Now's the time. I've got the double. We're juiced up again. I've already probably hurt you last round, chewed around the edges. Now we go in whole hog, double pile in. Let's go nuts. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the only thing stopping you from doing that is maybe specific scoring in a tournament pack where you're trying to chase 50-point games, but you don't have to if you can just win by like 30 points anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Because the differential is what matters to actually achieving the major. So just like when you can get under, like you let your opponent go first, they score, let's say 10 points. Let's say it's a map where they can get 10 points on the first turn, right? Which is fairly doable on most maps. They get 10 points in your turn, score 8. Free underdog in round 2. If you win the priority, take it. Double them. Who cares about the battle tactic? On average, people are only getting 4 battle tactics a game anyways. Okay, even the 5-0 players are only getting 4 battle tactics a game. So, and why is that? Well, I suspect it's because they're double turning and just giving one away. And you just take the top of 2, break their back, smash them, win the game. Like, they're not going to recover. And then you just score out from there. Like you're down 6 points, they're down an army. You'll make up the 6 points because then you can just 10 out every turn from there.
And the other thing about a double turn is that you're skipping an opportunity for a battle tactic, which means that you have the option, you have more choices
Right.
in
You
later
don't waste
turns.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, so coming off of that, you know, I think regardless, double turn is still really too strong. Like even Vince was kind of explaining it in the clip I showed you. It's like no matter the consequence, no matter what kind of debuff you can throw in the way of this to dissuade people from using it, just the kill, like completely tabling an army or completely like crippling them so much that they can't do anything is just so strong of a mechanic or situation, you know? Like who cares if you get a little bit of a debuff? It just doesn't matter. Completely destroying your opponent is just a way better option. Yeah, and that goes in line with the new FAQ about it too. The new force underdog mechanic still doesn't really matter. It's kind of like irrelevant still. Especially if you're like way under points because it's not even going to happen, right? But I mean, the underdog mechanic itself, which is kind of a separate issue, I think. Like, I think Spearhead does a better version of underdog than the main game. But with the main game, like, underdog is so, like, whatever. It, like, doesn't even matter. It doesn't seem like a very good catch-up mechanic at all. Even though it's supposed to be a catch-up mechanic to help the losing player, like, you know, be able to get some more points and have it be a very close game and all that, but that doesn't even seem to happen. So yeah, so I want to show you guys, or let's take a look at some of the GHB missions and the underdog rules, just to show you guys how much being an underdog and the new FAQ kind of forcing their opponent to be an underdog, if you take the double turn, how, yeah, being an underdog just kind of doesn't really matter. We got one mission here, the border war. The underdog mechanic is they get to add 1 to hit rolls for units in the underdog's army if they charge this turn and are contesting the objective wholly within their enemy territory. Now, at first glance, you might think that's, oh, +1 to hit, cool, but it's a very specific scenario, and I think most of the time you're not going to be in that situation if you get underdog. But anyways, here's the map. You have to be there to get that underdog debuff or underdog buff. And if you're the underdog, you're probably not going to be in that situation. So it seems really unlikely that this buff is even going to work in your favor. Next one, Feral Foray. It's where you can raid one objective. Yeah, I'll just read the whole thing. At the start of the battle round, each player can raid one objective they control in enemy territory. An objective that has been raided cannot be contested or controlled this battle round, so basically just taking away potential scoring for your enemy. The underdog can raid an objective in enemy territory that they contest but do not control. So, I mean, that's a little better, I think, than Border Wars, because it's a little bit of an easier situation to be in. I can definitely see the underdog or the person kind of losing the game to be like, yeah, they're contesting objective, but they got less control on it than the opponent. So then, you know, you can basically just kind of be like, screw you, shut it off. Now they can't get points. But it's only one objective you can do still, and out of all the potential scoring you can do, it's only 2 points. You know, one objective only counts as 2 points for this mission, and that's like nothing. Who cares? Like, because you can score 10 points for this mission in total with the objectives and battle tactics. So what, they can score 8 points total? That's not that big of a deal. That's not much of a detriment. You know, like, so it's like it doesn't even matter if you're underdog and you get that mechanic. So then the next one I'm looking at is focal points, where at the start of the battle round, whoever's underdog, they can change the central objective to be a home objective or a flank objective. But anyways, that's an easier one to accomplish as an underdog, like if you're actually losing the game. But still, it all depends on, are you even controlling the central objective? If you're not controlling the central objective, then this mechanic doesn't really matter. You know, that's the problem with it. I mean, that matter. What if you got 2 flanks in a home, like, and you're not in central? Well, then changing the central doesn't mean shit to you. So, like, that's kind of like still another, like, depends on the situation, and it's like 50% of the time or maybe less, that's not even gonna happen. Okay, yeah. So now we got the one called shifting objectives. The underdog can make the active player re-roll the dice to determine which objective is primary objective. Oh yeah, and the main rule for it was you have 3 objectives on the map in the middle. In the beginning, you roll to see which one's primary, the rest are secondary, and the primary gives you more points. Yeah, so all you do is just randomly change which one. Like, it's just not that good. I don't see how that's, for one, the underdog mechanic just isn't that strong to really help you catch up. And 2, when you're thinking about double turning and you're like, oh, I'm gonna give him underdog. Maybe I don't want to do that. Like, who cares? Underdog isn't gonna do shit. Giving them underdog is, yeah, basically not gonna matter that much. And even from personal experience too, when I played an RTT like a month ago, at least in my games, I don't think any of us paid attention to who was underdog and to even using any of the mechanics in the game. Like, once it was like round 2 or 3, we were just like, we just didn't pay attention to it. We just kind of forgot it was a thing. Yeah, so I was kind of talking about how I think at least with the underdog stuff, some of the randomization doesn't matter. And I was watching the Radio Free Hammerhal. He recently just did a video about double turn mechanic too. So I want to show a little clip for what he was talking about too, just to kind of show more how other people in the community are thinking about this, and yeah, to show his opinion, because he brings up some good points too. So let's check that out real quick.
It's random. It's not really about list building anymore. If everybody is 2 drops, then what are we doing? So it still seems like this is unbalanced. You know, double turns still create a massive swing in board state just because you're, you know, handing over 1 free command point per battle round to your opponent, and you are not able to score a battle tactic for 1 turn. It's not taking that huge board state swing away at all, and that's really the important thing. If you're getting the double 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, it can be just like this devastating situation that just gives you a huge advantage.
So yeah, overall, to be fair, you know, sometimes the double turn isn't as strong. You know, it always depends on the situation, the army, and the list. Sometimes it is too strong. So armies that are strong armies, or elite, maybe even elite armies, you could say, like Stormcast, Six of Darkness right now. They can do really well with the double turn, especially depending on their list. Armies that are not so strong, or can't really build super heavy hitting lists, they may not do that good with double turn. Yeah, like in the clip from Vince, the point with the Vanguard, which a lot of people are still doing, I think, as of now, where it's just like Vanguard, Chosen, maybe Knights and Warriors, whatever kind of layout, whatever list they are, right? Where I think a lot of people are bringing the Vanguard because of the double fight mechanic. And so, yeah, you know, imagine that they're going second in the round, they double fight you. Oh, now they got double turn, they're gonna fight again and double fight you again. So, like, it's just such an easy way to just nuke an army like round 2. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, kind of weaker armies, like I play Zinch, pretty familiar with them. They're not an army that's meant to be charging head first and, you know, alpha striking, completely wiping the enemy off the board. I mean, they have some strong units in strong ways that you can probably like snipe out a unit or 2, but they're gonna be like a harder faction to play and to use a double turn that's gonna like completely destroy an opponent. But, you know, I think like all the factions can still find a way to make some really good use out of double turning, whether that's a way to make up points or just in general just smashing someone, you know. Yeah, so, you know, in the end, kind of my closing thoughts on this, kind of like what I said in the beginning, I don't think GW can really fix the double turn mechanic. At least the things that they're doing now isn't showing that they can. like I said, they literally just their recent FAQ fix for double turn was to just copy Spearhead, except they added the, you know, now your opponent's forever underdog unless they double turn you, kind of extra caveat. So that's kind of a lazy way. I mean, to be fair, the Spearhead version I think is better than what the competitive main version was, but yeah, at least what they're showing so far, I don't think they're gonna fix this double turn or come up with a good creative solution for it anytime soon. And yeah, and just in my opinion, I don't think double turn is really gonna be anything that is easily fixable, if it is fixable at all. I just think it's too strong of a mechanic in the game system that is I go, you go. It's just too strong, you know? Having your whole army play twice, fight twice, charge twice, shoot twice, move twice, back to back, is such a strong thing. But yeah, that's just my opinion, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you think I'm full of shit? Do you think I'm stupid and don't know how to game? You know, whatever, explain. Share your opinions in the comments. And again, if you like this, if you stuck around this long, listening to my rant, yeah, please give a like. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, if you like content like this, you know, please feel free to subscribe. I'll be posting, you know, little talking head videos about my opinions and thoughts on AOS and maybe even other game systems too. Yeah, and you can check out my channel. I'll have more stuff coming up, like painting videos, maybe battle report stuff. Yeah, whatever I can figure out to be working on. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you sticking around and listening, and hope you have a good one. Adios.
I have a bad case of diarrhea.
私はひどい下痢です。
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.